Julius Wesche, welcome to Nyans.
Hey, thanks, Ben, for having me.
So, who are you in this context?
That's a good question. My name is Julius. I'm German, and I'm a researcher at the Energy, Climate, and Environment Group at the Faculty of Humanities, and I'm also affiliated with the Energy Transition Initiative at NTNU, and I run the NTNU Energy Transition podcast, which comes out every second week.
Wow, that sounds quite busy.
Well, I'm not the only one busy. I guess you're also quite busy with your things, so just trying to make a contribution.
I'm sure you do. And so, concerning Norway, where are we in this energy transition right now?
Well, where are we in Norway? So let's maybe start with having a look at like what are the assets that Norway has and what are the liabilities. Like assets are in Norway for sure that we have an electricity system that is highly filled by renewables. It's a very low carbon grid. Then we have an increasingly electrified transport system. When we think about cars, when we think about ferries, that's really good. That's really amazing. We have an ecosystem that's building up all around offshore wind, which is really good. And there's substantial plans for hydrogen. So I think these are very strong assets that we have. But on the other hand, we also have quite some liabilities. So we're now and for years to come dependent on the on exports of oil and fossil fuel, which is financially, it gives us dependence. So, for example, last year we had this Ukraine shock, which was amazing when you think about prices, because Norway could sell a lot of fossil fuels to Germany, for example. But when Erna, what was her last name? Not Stoltenberg, but Erna, when she was prime minister, there was a challenge when prices were really low. So Norway is substantially dependent on that. And there's an electricity deficit looming in the second half of the 20s. And the energy or the electricity grid that we have right now is maybe not built yet to take in all the intermittent electricity that we might have coming in with solar and wind onshore and wind offshore in the future.
But considering all these major issues, actually, I mean, how should we proceed? Is there something Norway should do differently, perhaps?
Well, it's who am I to say anything? So I'm German, and I have the Norwegian perspective, and I have the German perspective. But there's what we're thinking about are large socio-technological shifts. An energy transition is not easy. It's complex. It's intricate. So if anyone says, I know it all, it's very likely to be not true. So shifting or transitioning such systems is it complex, and that's why there's no easy answer. There's no such a thing as, they say, a silver bullet that will solve it all. So we have to have a look in a very integrated way of what can be done or what needs to be done, and then put up measures that hopefully steers us in the right direction. For example, in the beginning of summer, Norway approved about 20 million euros of new fossil fuel projects, especially also in the Arctic. And that's something that, that's not 20 million euros, that's not 60 million euros, that's 20 billion euros. Yeah. And that will lock us in. And we love this country. This is a beautiful country. It's a good people. It's lovely nature. But doing this has so much implications on all the people around the planet that the question is, can we do that wholeheartedly? And we know we have to keep the welfare state, but is that the right decision? Probably not. We also have to build up a real low-carbon economy faster. Right now, there are some things happening, but we're very much dependent on fossil fuel. And the question is, does that make sense? Or should we transition our economy substantially and quicker? And how could we do that? Well, we have to deploy solar at scale, wind offshore at scale, wind onshore at scale, and we have to make sure that the grids that we have can actually handle all that, and also have incentives for flexibility measures to keep it all as a running system.
That's very interesting, all of it. And concerning low carbon, there's also this controversy concerning hydrogen, the so-called, I think now most of the investment goes into so-called blue hydrogen. Yeah. Is that the right strategy, do you think?
Again, what is right, what is wrong? For researchers, that's kind of hard to say because we look at very complex systems. Yeah. But maybe to your point, when there is hydrogen, there will be a lot of demand for hydrogen from the European powerhouses in Central Europe. For first and foremost Germany, but also the adjacent countries. And there is this difference between hydrogen that comes from methane. So that means what's methane? Methane is CH4. So you take the C away, the carbon, and you you can use the H, but the C needs to be captured and then maybe put somewhere underground. That is a low carbon process, but it's not.
Blue, is it?
That's blue,
Right.
but that's not a zero carbon process because you have to catch the C, and no one catches 100%. So it's maybe good, it's maybe better, but the question is that enough? And then there's this other hydrogen, that's green hydrogen, and that you produce by using electricity, only electricity. And in Germany, I'm German, and in Germany, yes, the Germans are ready and willing to have blue hydrogen now for a couple of years to build up the value chain, but eventually they only want to buy green. And if we now invest heavily in Norway into blue hydrogen infrastructures, maybe then we will create what they call stranded assets. That means, oh yeah, we can use them for 10 years, but then they're built for 30 years, and then then we're in 2050, and maybe we cannot use them or cannot sell them. So it's a tricky decision, and I'm not sure in going too hard into blue hydrogen is the right way.
Right, but it's very fascinating listening to. And you also mentioned there's electricity deficit that might or seems very likely to occur in the late 20s. What's your take on that?
So traditionally, Norway has been an exporter, a net exporter of electricity, because there's a lot of green, lovely electricity around here. So traditionally, it was around 10 terawatt hours to 20 terawatt hours. Now, which is logical, is when we try to electrify, for example, the transport sector or the shipping sector or like the ferries, we need more electricity. But we can't just build another dam or like many dams. So this means we have the same production, but we have more demand, and that means we run into a deficit. And what happens with a deficit is that prices get higher. So what we are using or what we are used to as prices, it's going to change. And we can do a lot of things, like we can deploy again solar and wind at scale. But I feel we're still a little bit hibernating on that. So like kind of being in the sleep, it's going to be all good. And no, it's not going to be good. We have to take some decisions there.
Right. And one of these other alternatives that has received reasonable amount of attention in the newspapers is nuclear power. Is that something we should consider in Norway? What was your take on that?
So when we think about nuclear, we have to make a differentiation between fission and fusion. What we've had for decades was fission. And that's what you see in all these nuclear reactors that we had on the planet. But the thing with nuclear, and it could be fission thorium or it could be fusion, is that for decades it was always said, yeah, we need another 10 years, and then it's going to be all right. For example, there was a thorium reactor in the 1960s in the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in the United States. That's 6 years ago.
Right.
And if we say, yes, we want these small reactors, thorium reactors, why are they not there right now if they had 60 years? So why can we believe that they will be ready in 10 years? And I don't think they will be ready. And the same thing is with fusion. It's nice. It's like from a physics point of view, it's an amazing technology if it would work. But climate change is happening right now. And that means we have to deploy technology right now that is available right now. And we have to do it in a way that is just and that takes the needs and the desires of local populations takes them into account. And you probably heard about this thing, not in my backyard, NIMBY.
Yeah.
There's another thing, it's called banana. Don't build anything around me anytime, something like that. So if we have troubles in Norway to put up a wind farm somewhere or just a wind turbine, just think about putting a thorium reactor somewhere in a neighborhood or just around there. Good luck getting the social acceptance for that. So I think it's a pipe dream. I think it's nothing we should put our very scarce resources into.
Right, I see. And I should also make sure to make it clear that when I said the nuclear power, I actually meant nuclear energy, just not to confuse anyone with bombs. That was not part of the picture.
Yeah.
Julius, thanks for being here. Any final perspectives or advice that you would like to give to the Norwegian people concerning the energy conversation? Again, I'm an utlending. I'm not a Norwegian, so I don't think that I have anyone to advise to anyone. But just for the reference, there's a lot of people who work with the energy transition in Norway, a lot of clever people. And if you think about putting a solar panel on your roof, or if you think about insulating your building, then you're one of us. So you're not alone. We're not alone. We got to do this, and we are doing that. And
we sometimes get distorted by what's happening in the media, but there's a lot of people, smart people working on this and doing a lot of things. And I co-founded a network for young energy professionals. It's called the Green Energy Shifters. And if anyone of you people who are listening or watching this right now, if you think you want to get to know other people that are young professionals in the energy sector and they want to make a challenge and want to make a change and accelerate the energy transition, then join us, because together we can do it quicker and better. So that was maybe my last word. Thanks.